the sanctuary. Dr. Kira Vance pressed her palm against the observation window, watching the amber clouds of Helion Prime swirl below Medical Station Haven. After 18 months as chief physician, she still found moments like this grounding. The station hummed with quiet efficiency around her, a sanctuary of healing floating in the darkness between worlds. "Beautiful view for someone who never looks up from her work," a voice said behind her. Kira turned to find Captain Dominic Reed leaning against the doorframe, his Security Council uniform crisp despite the long journey from Earth. Something about his presence made the spacious observation deck feel smaller, more intimate. "Captain Reed, I didn't expect you until tomorrow's briefing." She tucked a strand of dark hair behind her ear, suddenly conscious of her rumpled medical scrubs. "Dom, please." He moved closer, and she caught the faint scent of something earthy, grounding. "I wanted to see the station before the formal tour, get a sense of what you've built here." "What we've built," Kira corrected, gesturing toward the medical bay visible through the interior windows. "Nurse Chen just saved a Korvathi child's life yesterday. Dr. Osei developed a treatment for Talaxian bone disease that was thought incurable. This place belongs to everyone who chooses to heal rather than harm." Dom's expression softened. "That's exactly why I'm here. Earth wants to ensure your safety. Tensions are rising in several sectors." "We're neutral ground," Kira said firmly. The something in his tone made her uneasy. "The Galactic Accords protect medical facilities." "On paper," he said beside her at the window, close enough that their shoulders nearly touched. "But not everyone respects paper, Dr. Vance." "Kira," she said quietly, meeting his gaze. His eyes were remarkable, a shade of gray that reminded her of Earth's oceans during storms. The moment stretched between them, charged with something neither seemed ready to name. Then the station's communication system chimed softly. "Dr. Vance to pediatrics! Dr. Vance to pediatrics!" Kira sighed, breaking eye contact. "Duty calls. Will you join me? You should see what we're actually protecting." They walked through corridors lined with recovery rooms, passing staff members from a dozen different worlds. In pediatrics, a young Zentari patient with bioluminescent skin giggled as Nurse Chen made funny faces during her examination. "This is worth protecting," Dom said softly, and when Kira glanced at him, the intensity in his expression made her breath catch. Before she could respond, alarms shrieked through the station. Red emergency lights began pulsing. The deck trembled beneath their feet. "All personnel, this is operations," came the strained voice over the intercom. "We have 3 unidentified warships approaching at attack velocity. They're not responding to hails. This is not a drill. Initiate evacuation protocol Omega." Kira's blood turned cold as she looked at Dom. His hand was already on his comm device. His entire demeanor transformed from visitor to warrior in an instant. "They're Draxian," he said grimly, listening to intelligence feeds, "and they're powering weapons." The first explosion rocked Haven, and through the windows, Kira watched streaks of plasma fire light up the darkness like falling stars. But these stars brought only death. End of part 1. The second impact threw Kira against the wall. Dom caught her, his reflexes unnaturally fast, steadying her as the lights flickered and died before emergency systems kicked in. "Pediatrics evacuation, now!" Kira shouted, her training overriding panic. Nurse Chen was already moving, scooping up the Zentari child, while 2 orderlies rushed to gather the other young patients. Dom's jaw clenched as he listened to the tactical feed through his earpiece. "They're targeting the evacuation pods. Kira, this isn't a warning shot. They mean to destroy everything." "That's impossible. We're a medical facility. The Draxians signed the accords." But even as she spoke, another explosion rocked the station, closer this time. Through the viewport, she saw one of their evacuation pods explode in a brilliant flash, taking 12 souls with it. "Get to the emergency bay," Dom ordered, his voice carrying an authority that made everyone instantly obey. "I'll cover the rear sections." "You're security liaison, not military,"
Kira protested, but he was already moving with a lethal grace that contradicted his supposed civilian status. The next 20 minutes became a nightmare of smoke and screaming. Kira led her team through buckling corridors, past rooms where patients too critical to move lay helpless. Dr. Osei stayed behind with them, his calm voice speaking words of comfort as the station died around them. At the emergency bay, chaos reigned. 60 people fought for space in pods designed for 40. Kira made impossible choices, prioritizing children and critical patients, watching colleagues she'd worked beside for months accept their fate with quiet dignity. "Take this pod." Dom appeared beside her, his uniform torn and stained with blood that wasn't his own. He practically lifted her toward an opening. "What about you?" Kira grabbed his arm, and something passed between them, an acknowledgement of feelings barely begun and possibly ending before they could be explored. "I'll find another way." His hand cupped her face, thumb brushing her cheek with devastating gentleness. "Kira, I need you to know." The corridor behind them exploded. The blast wave threw Kira into the pod. She caught a glimpse of Dom's body flying backward before the automatic system sealed the hatch and launched. Through the small viewport, she watched Haven die. Sections broke apart, venting atmosphere and bodies into space. The Draxian ships methodically destroyed every pod they could target, their weapons painting death across the stars. Kira's pod tumbled through debris, its damaged navigation system spinning them away from the established routes. Around her, 3 other survivors huddled in shock. Nurse Chen clutched the Zentari child, both weeping. An engineer she barely knew applied pressure to his own bleeding shoulder. "Mayday! This is Medical Station Haven Evacuation Pod 7. We were attacked by Draxian warships. They deliberately targeted medical personnel and patients during evacuation. Estimated casualties exceed 200 souls. They knew what we were. They knew and they killed us anyway." As the pod's emergency beacon broadcast her message into the void, Kira allowed herself one moment of grief before training took over again. She had 3 people depending on her survival skills now. But in the darkness behind them, something else stirred. On Earth, in a facility that existed only in classified files, Kira's distress signal triggered protocols that hadn't been activated in decades. And Captain Dominic Reed, pulled from Haven's wreckage by an automated recovery system, opened his eyes to reveal something unhuman glowing beneath the gray. His body began rapid cellular regeneration, enhanced systems coming online one by one. Sector 7 activated. He whispered into his neural comm, "This is Guardian 7. I'm going hunting."
The Awakening. Lieutenant Sofia Marquez stood in the war room 300 meters beneath Geneva, watching the holographic replay of Haven's destruction for the 5th time. Each viewing made her jaw clench tighter. 217 confirmed dead, General Marcus Webb stated flatly. 43 missing, including Dr. Kira Vance and 19 other medical personnel we believe were taken alive. Sophia's enhanced vision tracked the Draxian ship movements with perfect clarity. They planned this, knew exactly where to strike for maximum casualties while capturing specific targets. Which is why we're activating Shadow Protocol. President Chen's face appeared on the main screen, aged beyond her years in the past 24 hours. The Guardians are authorized for full deployment. Find our people. Make the Draxians regret they ever heard the word human. In the medical bay, Dominic Reed was undergoing rapid rehabilitation, his enhanced body already healing from injuries that would have killed an unaugmented person 3 times over. Sophia entered to find him doing one-arm pull-ups despite the regeneration sleeve on his left shoulder. "Guardian 7, you're supposed to be resting," she said, though admiration colored her tone. "Guardian 3, I'm supposed to be dead." Dom dropped to the floor, his gray eyes now flickering with bioluminescent markers that revealed his true nature. Instead, I watched Kira get launched into hostile space while I floated in debris pretending to be a corpse. Resting isn't in my current programming. Sophia understood. Before joining the Guardians, she'd been Special Forces, the best infiltrator Earth had produced. Then she'd volunteered for the program that made her something more than human, something designed to inspire fear in humanity's enemies. But even enhanced, she recognized the dangerous edge in Dom's voice.
He wasn't just angry. He was emotionally compromised. "You care about her," Sophia observed. "The doctor." Dom's expression became carefully neutral, but his elevated heart rate betrayed him to her enhanced hearing. "She represents everything that Guardians were created to protect. Healers shouldn't have to fear warriors." "That's not what I asked." He met her gaze directly. "Kira's brilliant, compassionate, brave. She spent 18 months building something beautiful in a dark galaxy. Yes, I care, which is why I won't let emotion compromise this mission." Sophia nodded slowly. She'd read his file. Guardian 7, enhanced reflexes, strength, regeneration, and tactical processing, but also something rarer among their kind, retained capacity for genuine human connection. Most Guardians lost that in the enhancement process. It made Dom valuable and vulnerable in equal measure. "We've located her pod's trajectory," Sophia said, pulling up a holographic star chart. "She's in Draxian space, headed toward Prison Station Kravik. Our intel suggests that's where they're taking medical personnel for interrogation." "Interrogation?" Dom's hands clenched. "They want to know how we treat diseases they can't cure. Our medical knowledge has strategic value." "Which means she's alive." Sophia placed a hand on his shoulder, a gesture of solidarity between warriors who'd seen too much darkness. "We deploy in 3 hours. 12 Guardians, 12 target locations. I'm leading the Kravik assault. You're with me." In the hours before deployment, Dominic found himself in his quarters staring at a holographic image he'd captured weeks ago during his assignment on Haven. Kira laughing at something Nurse Chen said, her whole face lit with joy. He'd taken the image secretly, knowing even then that his feelings went beyond professional observation. "I'm coming for you," he whispered to the hologram. "I'm sorry I couldn't tell you what I really am, but you're about to see exactly what humanity becomes when you threaten our healers." The Guardians assembled in the deployment bay, 12 figures in adaptive armor that shifted like liquid shadow. Unlike regular military units with their rigid hierarchies, they stood as equals. 12 apex predators preparing to hunt. "You know your targets," General Webb addressed them. "Kravik Prison, Command Station Zethus, Fleet Base Mordax, and High Command on Draxia Prime itself. No survivors among those responsible, full documentation of atrocities. The galaxy needs to understand what happens when you attack human medical personnel." The Guardians didn't cheer or salute. They simply nodded and boarded their stealth ships, engines already warming for the jump to hyperspace. As Dom strapped into his deployment pod, Sophia's voice came through his Neuralink. "Keep your head clear, 7. We need you sharp." "My head's never been clearer, 3. Dom checked his weapons one final time. "The Draxians wanted to see what humans do when pushed. They're about to learn we keep monsters on leashes. And someone just cut the chains."
The Reckoning. Prison Station Kravik hung in orbit around a dead moon, its black hull absorbing light like a wound in space. Inside, Dr. Kira Vance pressed her hand against the cold wall of her cell, counting hours by the rhythm of guard patrols. The Draxians had been efficient if brutal in their interrogation attempts. They wanted human medical knowledge, treatment protocols for diseases that plagued their expanding empire. Kira had given them nothing but anatomical lectures they could find in any basic textbook. Still defiant, human. Commander Vrekes stood outside her cell, his scaled face expressionless. "3 of your colleagues have already cooperated. Perhaps you need more motivation." "My colleagues know the same thing I do," Kira said quietly. "You violated every principle of galactic law. When Earth responds, it won't be with diplomatic protests." Vrekes laughed, a harsh clicking sound. "Earth sent doctors, not warriors. Your species chose peace, remember? That weakness is why we struck." Before Kira could respond, the prison's lights died. Emergency systems failed to activate. In the sudden darkness, she heard something that made her blood run cold. Screaming, then silence, spreading through the facility like a wave. "What's happening?" Vrekes demanded into his comm device. Only static answered. The lock on Kira's cell disengaged with a soft click. The door slid open. In the dim emergency lighting that finally flickered on, a figure stood in the corridor. Adaptive armor flowed over his frame like living shadow, but his face was exposed.
Dom.
Kira whispered, her mind struggling to reconcile the man she'd known with this lethal apparition. I'm sorry I lied to you. His voice was the same, but his eyes glowed with bioluminescent markers in the darkness. Captain Reed was a cover. I'm Guardian 7, Shadow Protocol Operative. Commander Vreckes reached for his weapon. Dom moved with inhuman speed, covering 3 meters instantly and catching the Draxian's hand before it reached the holster. The casual strength with which he held Vreckes immobile spoke of enhancements far beyond human norms. You have information I need, Dom said calmly. Locations of other prisoners. Names of everyone who participated in Haven's destruction. You can share that information consciously, or I can extract it through less pleasant means. Vreckes spat at him. I'll tell you nothing, enhanced abomination. Guardian 3, I need you in cell block 7, Dom said, apparently to empty air. A woman materialized from the shadows, her own armor rippling as she became visible. Already handled. 19 human medical personnel secured and prepped for extraction. Kravik's command structure is neutralized. Neutralized? Kira asked, though she wasn't sure she wanted the answer. Sophia's expression remained professional. They attacked medics. There's no mercy protocol for that. Come on, Doctor. Let's get you out of here. But Kira couldn't move, staring at Dom. What are you? What did they do to you? Dom released Vreckes, letting the commander collapse to the floor. He took a careful step toward Kira, hands visible and non-threatening despite the weapons integrated into his armor. 15 years ago, I volunteered for a program. Enhanced reflexes, strength, regeneration, tactical processing. They made me into a weapon so others could remain healers. His voice softened. I watched over Haven for 3 months, Kira. Got to know you, your staff, everything you'd built. And somewhere along the way, I stopped seeing it as just an assignment. Kira's medical training warred with her emotions. She could see the augmentations now, subtle markers beneath his skin, the way he moved with predatory grace. He was a weapon, designed to kill. But he was also the man who'd made her laugh during late-night shift changes, who'd listened to her dreams of expanding Haven's pediatric wing. You could have told me, she said finally. Would you have trusted me, knowing what I am? His expression held genuine uncertainty, perhaps the most human thing about him in that moment. Kira reached out, placing her hand against his cheek. His skin was warm beneath her palm, very much alive despite the enhancements. I trusted you when you threw yourself into an explosion trying to save me. The rest is just details. Sophia cleared her throat. Touching reunion, but we have 3 more facilities to hit and a limited window. Dr. Vance, can you walk? I can run if needed. Kira straightened, her physician's determination reasserting itself. The other medical staff will need immediate care. Some have injuries. Then let's move. Sophia handed Kira a small device. Emergency beacon. You get separated, activate it. We'll find you. As they moved through Kravik's corridors, Kira saw the evidence of the Guardian's work. Draxian guards lay unconscious or worse, neutralized with surgical precision. Every door to every cell holding human personnel stood open. At the extraction point, Dom pulled her aside one final time. When this is over, when you know everything we've done to get you back, you might not look at me the same way. Kira rose on her toes, pressing her lips to his in a brief, fierce kiss. When this is over, we're going to have a long conversation about honesty and trust. But Dom, whatever you had to become to save us, I won't judge you for it. You didn't start this war. His arms came around her, careful of his augmented strength, holding her with devastating gentleness. No, he agreed softly. But we're going to finish it. The New Dawn. 3 weeks after the Kravik extraction, Kira stood in a hearing room on Earth, facing the Galactic Justice Council. The rescued medical personnel had been debriefed, treated, and given the choice to speak publicly about their ordeal. 27 of 43 survivors chose to testify. The Draxian forces knew exactly what they were attacking, Kira stated clearly, her voice carrying through the chamber. They disabled our communications first, then targeted evacuation pods. This wasn't collateral damage. It was systematic murder of non-combatants. The Draxian ambassador, a different individual than those who'd ordered the attack, shifted uncomfortably. His government had already begun distancing itself from rogue military elements, but the evidence was damning. On screens throughout the galaxy, footage played from the Guardians' operations. Not the kills, but the discoveries. Files recovered from Draxian Command showed explicit orders to strike Haven and capture medical personnel. Communications revealed High Command's belief that human weakness made them easy targets. What the galaxy also saw was what came after. Draxian Command Station Zethys, reduced to floating debris. Fleet Base Mordax, every warship involved in Haven's destruction now scrap metal. And on Draxia Prime itself, the High Command members responsible for the attack brought before their own people to face justice. The Guardians had been thorough, professional, and absolutely terrifying in their efficiency. President Chen addressed the council. Humanity offered peace. We built medical stations to help all species. The Draxians mistook our compassion for weakness. Let this serve as a clear message. We will always prefer to heal, but we haven't forgotten how to hurt those who threaten our healers. In the months that followed, something shifted across known space. 3 more species requested human medical outposts in their territory. Pirates who'd previously harassed aid convoys suddenly avoided them entirely. The galaxy had been reminded that humanity's angels came with swords. Kira returned to space, this time to Medical Station Horizon, a new facility built on Haven's legacy but with significantly enhanced defenses. She'd requested the assignment despite offers of safer positions on Earth. You didn't have to come back out here, Dom said, meeting her at the docking bay on her first day. He wore civilian clothes now, officially retired from active Guardian duty to serve as Horizon Security Director. Yes, I did. Kira set down her bag, taking in the familiar layout, the same mission with harder lessons learned. If I stayed on Earth, they won. Fear can't dictate where healing happens. You're not afraid at all? Dom asked softly, stepping closer. Terrified, she admitted. But I have an excellent security director. One who's seen me at my worst and still looks at me like I'm something precious. Dom's hand found hers, fingers interlacing with the careful strength she'd come to recognize as his constant awareness of his own power. You are precious. You and everyone like you, choosing to heal in a galaxy full of reasons not to. Their relationship had evolved slowly, built on honesty after those first lies of omission. Kira had learned about the Guardian program, the enhancements that made Dom simultaneously more and less than human. He'd shared his fears about losing the last pieces of his humanity to the augmentations. She'd countered by pointing out that his very fear proved his humanity remained intact. Now, as Horizon's medical bay hummed to life with staff from a dozen worlds, Kira felt cautiously hopeful. The attack on Haven had been brutal, the losses devastating. But from that tragedy came clearer understanding across the galaxy. The Council approved our expansion proposal, she told Dom that evening, standing at the same observation window design that Haven had featured. 5 new stations, all with integrated Guardian protection. They're calling it the Haven Initiative. A fitting memorial, Dom agreed, standing behind her, arms wrapped carefully around her waist. Dr. Osei would have liked that. Kira leaned back against his chest, allowing herself the comfort of his presence. 27 colleagues had survived. Too many hadn't. But those losses would be honored by continuing their work, not abandoning it. 6 months later, at a small ceremony in Horizon's chapel, Nurse Chen served as Kira's witness while Sophia stood up for Dom. The wedding was simple, attended by medical staff and a handful of Guardians who'd learned to exist in peacetime. I promise to trust you, Kira said during their vows, even when you have to become the weapon. Because I know you'll always come back to being the man who caught me when the station shook, who made terrible jokes during night shifts, who chooses compassion over violence whenever possible. Dom's voice held uncharacteristic emotion. I promise to protect what you build, to be the shield so you can be the healer, and to always remember that the best part of me is the part that loves you. In the audience, General Webb watched with satisfaction. The Guardians had been created as weapons, tools to be deployed and stored. But Dom proved they could be something more, anchoring themselves to the very humanity they protected. As Kira and Dom's first dance continued, Sophia stood at the viewport, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, 11 other Guardians remained active, ready to respond if ever humanity's healers faced threat again. The galaxy had learned a crucial lesson. Humanity's angels of mercy had deadly protectors. And those protectors would stop at nothing to defend the choice to heal. To new beginnings, Kira whispered against Dom's shoulder. And old promises kept, he replied, holding her close. We chose peace. But we never forgot war. Outside Horizon's windows, stars shone steadily in the darkness, and humanity's medical stations continued their work across the galaxy. Healing, helping, hoping. Protected by monsters who'd chosen to serve the light. The end.